Good morning, everybody. I do hope that you hear me. Can I confirm that you hear me?
We hear you, sir.
Okay, fine. Then let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the Water and Environment Week webinar series. This is the second webinar, a series of 5 webinars. And the aim of these webinars is to give all of us background information on the Uganda Water and Environment Week, and the theme and sub-themes that are going to be driving our discussions. I'm called Dr. Kalisti Ndimugaya. I'm a Commissioner for Water Resources Planning and Regulation in Ministry of Water and Environment, and I would want to welcome all of you. As has already been shared on the chat, this is the second webinar and is focusing on the role of water and environment in achieving Uganda's Tenfold growth strategy. And we are privileged to have two distinguished speakers that will help us to appreciate why this sub-theme is important. And I would like to inform you that the two speakers are from, one is from Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Moses Sonko, who is a principal economist. He will be speaking to us shortly. The next one is Mr. Ronald Kagwa, who is the Major Production, Trade and Tourism Planning Authority. And as you know, these are the two government institutions that are responsible for ensuring that the economy grows. So we are happy to hear from them. After they have taken us through what they have prepared for us, we shall then have opportunities for comments, questions, clarification. Just to inform you that during the Uganda Water and Environment Week, we'll be having a keynote speaker on this theme and 5 panelists. But for today, our speakers are going to help us appreciate why this sub-theme is important. But for those who are planning to participate actively in the Uganda Water and Environment Week, this is where we prepare abstracts. Unfortunately, the deadline ended 2 days ago, but also opportunities for side events, opportunities for trainings, for field visits. So we are trying to get you to appreciate why this sub-theme is important. But during the Uganda Water and Environment Week, we'll have an opportunity to go deeper and contribute effectively. At the end of this webinar, we shall also give you some information on when the follow-up webinars are going to take place so that you can participate actively. Once again, thank you very much, and I hope that you'll enjoy this webinar. So let me check to see whether Mr. Moses Sonko, I already saw you there. Mr. Ronald Kagwa, if he has joined, he will come in, but maybe we start with you, Mr. Moses Sonko. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. I hope, Chair, I'm audible enough.
Yes,
Chair,
you are.
can you hear me?
You very well. Go ahead.
Chair, thank you so much. Once again, I'm Moses Sonko. I work with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. I'm a principal economist and a desk officer for water and environment in the Ministry of Finance. Chair, I want to apologize. I didn't prepare a formal presentation because I had received the communication a bit slightly late and I had a lot of other engagements, but I would just thought I would share a few insights with us so that we can maybe discuss from there. Speaking to the topic, the role of water in Uganda's economic development. Water and environment. The topic, Chair, that I was given is about the role of water in Uganda's economic development. Chair and members, as you know, the government has set what is called a Tenfold growth strategy to grow the economy. It is a blueprint strategy, for the government to expand the economy from about 50 billion US dollars. That was around 2023 to $500 billion by the year 2040. That target, Chair, within it we have what the government has identified as the anchor areas, the 4 anchor areas which we usually refer to as ATMs. ATMs, for the person who has heard about it for the first time, I think we're referring to the money machines of the bank, but ATMs, A stands for Agro-Industrial Development. There is tourism development, mineral-based, M is mineral-based development, which includes oil and gas for the petrochemical industry. Then S is science, technology, ICT, innovation, and the creative industry, what we call the knowledge economy. But also, the strategy recognizes that there are other enabling areas that will support those ATMs. Areas like access to safe water and sanitation, areas like sustainable use of natural resources and environment, areas like our human capital, Ugandans, through education and health and access to safe and clean water, they are, among others, plus science, technology, they are being classified as enablers. Now, Chair, growing the economy from 50 billion US dollars to $500 billion in the next less than 15 years is not a mean target. It calls that we address the key constraints or the key drivers, and water and environment are key. Chair, as we all know, agriculture contributes about close to 25% of the country's GDP, and it provides livelihoods for over 70% of our population. Agriculture also accounts for about 48% of export earnings. And agriculture, as we all know, colleagues, largely depends on, we know, of course, it has the other factors of production like land, but it needs access to sufficient water and also using the land, the environment, sustainably. So, and we also know, according to statistics, that Uganda has irrigation potential in excess of 3 million hectares, but currently I think a very small percentage, like less than 1% of the irrigation potential is being irrigated. And largely our agriculture is rain-fed, which is affecting productivity. Now, if we are going to pursue agro-industrialization, it means we need to invest sufficiently in water and environment. We need to invest in irrigation so that the country can have, all farmers can have all year production and minimize dependence on rain-fed agriculture. We need to ensure that the environment is sustainably managed so that we protect the water sources, because we definitely need the water to finance the other areas of the economy. Water is also important for other sectors. I mentioned under ATMs that we have the tourism development. Chair, it is evident. If you go to water sources like our rivers, River Nile, Lake Victoria, and others within the country, they are huge, they hold huge tourism potential. So it's important that the water bodies are well managed, well protected from potential degradation, but also that the water in these bodies can be used to support tourism activities. So it calls for sustainable management of those water resources. Mineral-based development, which I also mentioned, including oil and gas, like the petrochemical industries. Chair and members, you will appreciate that these industries cannot work without access to sufficient water. We've been told that, for example, the current developments in the Albertine region require that we fast track the development and provision of sufficient water to the industries. We expect the developments in oil and gas to attract other upstream and the downstream industries, which will need water. And so on and so forth. Fisheries needs water. Chair, in brief, water and environment is key for us to achieve our long-term development agenda as a country. Chair, now that one takes me to the issue of financing. I thought I should look at financing. No, before I go to financing, Chair, I mentioned the enablers, which include human capital. Human capital, under the strategy, we are talking about access to safe cleaning water and sewerage services, and of course, the safely managed environment. For us to have a healthy population which is productive, we need to address the existing challenges in accessing safe and clean water in both rural and urban areas, including sanitation. So besides, beyond directly supporting the ATMs, water is one of the critical enablers for the Tenfold growth strategy. We are highly urbanizing. I think Uganda has one of the highest rates of urbanization in the world. And the cities and towns and the municipalities need access to safe and clean water and the sewage services. Chair, I want to briefly talk about the financing. Members, as we know, financing of the water and environment sector is through a number of mechanisms. One of them is definitely through the government of Uganda budget appropriation from Parliament, using our domestically generated revenue, which is appropriated the different interventions within water and environment programs. We also get support from the development partners. And these are quite many, like the World Bank, we have the AFDB, we have KFW, we have and so on, Chair. We finance through external loans. Donors give sometimes grants, but also they are moving more towards less concessional loans to commercial financing. So we are now seeing a changing trend that requires that we try as much as possible to develop the capacity to mobilize funding from other alternative sources of funding. We finance the local government through transfers. We have grants that go to local governments. Of course, we are mindful that the funding is currently not sufficient, but that's one of the mechanisms for financing the decentralized services for water and environment. Of course, we do also have the public-private partnerships where the private sector contributes. For example, when you look at the mechanism used by national water and storage services, there is public investment through major projects implemented by national water, but also the consumers contribute through tariffs and the bills. payments to the utility bodies, national and the umbrella bodies, and so on. So the private sector is very critical, Chair. It's one area which we look forward to see how we can mobilize or mobilize more funding from the private sector to support the water and the environment. The community contributes, though to a minimal level, but they do contribute to management of the water sources, maybe through the user fees and so on. Chair, of course we know, I've mentioned the funding, but we also know the funding is not sufficient. We are developing capacity in tapping into areas like climate finance. You know, we've developed a climate finance strategy, working closely with the Ministry of Water and Environment and other partners. With the intention is for us to develop the required capacity to tap into that financing window. Of course, not only for water, but also environment financing through climate finance. We look forward also, we need to build the capacity I've mentioned the private sector, but also there are other blended financing mechanisms like green bonds. We are still trying to see how we can have clear strategy to mobilize financing through bonds. Chair, you know, there are efforts going on to build a capacity in the carbon markets so that we can access carbon financing. We also need to look at result-based financing. This is one of the areas I think mainly used by institutions like the World Bank, and it has funded the programs like the Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfers, which we commonly call UGIFT. It's a result-based financing where you agree on conditions to access the financing based on performance. Chair, I think currently, if you look at what goes to the water and the environment sector, on average, would say maybe around 1 trillion annually. Is far below the target we set under the SDGs. So there is a huge funding gap. We are mindful and we know that for us to achieve the Tenfold growth strategy, we need to close that funding gap. I've mentioned that we need to tap into the private sector financing, but you know the private sector usually, as we know, invest where they expect a return on their investment, immediate return. So we really need to find a way of working closely with the private and see where they can come in. We are going to put more emphasis on the capacity for formulating projects for climate financing, and also if we are to go into green bonds, those ones require that we build capacity in implementation, capacity in data management, capacity in monitoring, and so on and so forth. Chair, I thought I would share those few ideas just to generate, to trigger further discussion on where we can do better. I've mentioned the available financing. Of course, that there are around $1 trillion that comes in, that goes into the area of water and environment, does not, I think, put into account the area like the private sector contribution. I think we are currently not able to track. But I think if we invest more in the systems, we can also estimate, like the statistics from UBOS can actually tell us how much, for example, at household level is being spent on water and sanitation, and see how we can leverage on that financing window. Chair, I want to request that I stop there. Maybe we can discuss further. I submit, Chair. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Moses, for taking us through this. Very, very informative. I'm sure the listeners are also enjoying this. We'll have opportunity for question, comments after Mr. Kagwa has made his submission. So Mr. Ronald Kagwa already introduced you, but for those who may have come in, Mr. Ronald Kagwa is the Manager, Production, Trade and Tourism Planning and National Planning Authority. So we'll be speaking to us as well on this topic, so that then after that we can have opportunity for discussion. So Mr. Kagwa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Moses has almost said it all, but allow me to repeat a few of what he has said. One, from the onset, I want us to recognize that Uganda is a natural resource-based economy. The tenfold growth that Moses has talked about cannot be attained without harnessing our natural resources and harnessing them in a sustainable manner to serve the present and the future generations. Therefore, the quality of our natural resources, the quantity of our natural resources, the productivity of our natural resources, the diversity of these natural resources, all of them need to be kept if we are to achieve the tenfold growth, which my colleague has ably explained. Now, if you look at environment and water, they are cross-cutting. Key components, key ingredients in the attainment of the tenfold growth. NDP4 recognize the centrality of natural resources, environment and water in all the programs. And as Moses has explained, all these other programs somehow in one way or another, directly or indirectly, depend on the availability and accessibility to environment resources as well as water resources. He has mentioned minerals, oil and gas that we are looking at to achieve the tenfold growth cannot be exploited without water. So water is central to that. We're also pursuing what we call a natural resource-led industrialization. We want to industrialize, but our industrialization is underpinned by natural resources. So we need to look at how do we harness natural resources as a stepping stone to natural resource-led industrialization. There are so many industries, agro-based industries, processing industries that we envisage in NDP4, all of which are based on water. One critical aspect that we need to look at here is that we cannot achieve a tenfold growth without human capital. So we need human capital development. We need to raise the quality of the human resource, the productivity of the human resource. We need investment in the human resource. And we need to feed the human resource. So if you look at the key component of human resource development, again, natural resource, water, environment is critical to the well-being of our people. So it is a key factor in poverty reduction. We cannot reduce poverty unless we do tackle the issue of water, environment. Now we are looking at harnessing our environment and natural resource to create savings that are invested in infrastructure development, savings that are invested in human capital development as a way of sustaining or reaching a sustainable future. So savings from natural resource forms the basis of investment in the other non-natural resource forms of capital. They produced capital like infrastructure, industry. All these depend on savings from natural resources. Now, much as we have said that, NDP4 and the tenfold growth recognizes the threats to our natural resource, which need to be tackled. And one key threat to the natural resource is climate change. Climate change, of course, is responsible for the loss of our biodiversity, quite a lot of it, agricultural extensification, which is making us lose our forest resources, unplanned urbanization, urban sprawl. So we need to look at this. So, and this country is vulnerable to climate change, partly because of our dependency on natural resources, which are sensitive to climate change. However, we also need to recognize the opportunities that climate change offers to our country and see how to harness it, how to tap it, especially given the budgetary constraints that Moses has highlighted and the innovative tools that are being proposed. So, Chair, allow me to stop here. Moses has said it all. I'm just adding on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Kagwa, for really that brilliant presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to recap for those who have just joined in, that we have been listening to two gentlemen, Mr. Moses Sonko from Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and Mr. Ronald Kagwa from National Planning Authority. And they have taken us through really the Tenfold growth strategy and how water and environment are going to contribute to that. And I do hope that you have really heard from Mr. Moses Sonko that we are trying to grow from 50 billion to 500 billion in less than 15 years. And we are focusing on 4 anchor areas. The ATMS has described that, but has also highlighted how water and environment resources are key in achieving that they are drivers for various aspects for agro-industrialization. Again, I highlighted the dependence of agriculture on water and environment resources, but also the fact that our irrigation potential is still very low, that we are depending largely on irrigation, rain-fed agriculture, but we need to protect these resources so that they are available now and in the future. And of course, I ended by saying that our development agenda is going to be depending on water and environment resources, but also has highlighted the challenges that we're faced with, especially the financing, that what we are getting is far less than what we should be getting, about 1 trillion per year, against an estimate of about 3-4 trillion per year. So there's a very, very big funding gap, but has taken us through the opportunities for mobilizing resources, again, from government, private sector, climate financing, green bonds, but has highlighted the challenges we have, the capacity challenges. So again, thank you very much, Mr. Sonko, for really taking us through that, very informative. Mr. Ronald Kagwa really emphasized the importance of natural resources, that Uganda's economy is largely based on natural resources. So we need to harness these resources in a sustainable manner, but of course ensure that they are available in adequate quantity and quality, but also has highlighted that NDPIV recognizes the centrality of water and environment resources and it supports the different programs. He has also indicated how the country is focusing on natural resource-led industrialization and how industrialization is critically going to depend on availability of these resources. Again, NDPIV and Tenfold, the food growth strategy recognize the threat to natural resources, has elaborated a number of threats, and of course, climate change being one of them. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't have had better presenters to help us appreciate this sub-theme. This sub-theme where we are talking about the role of water and environment resources in achieving Uganda's Tenfold growth strategy. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So I would like to open the floor for comments, questions to the two gentlemen. They are the custodians of the Tenfold growth strategy and of course NDPIV, and I'm sure they will be ready to respond to every question that you may have. Some of the questions are already in the chat. Those who are able to speak, you can speak. Those who would request you to put their questions in the chat, and also put your contacts for those who have not participated in previous sessions. So I already see some questions on the chat. I do hope I can read them for the benefit of Ronald and Moses before I allow people to speak openly. So Mr. Masembe Muhammad is thanking you so much. He says, what is the planned target? What is the planned target annual financing the water sector according to the Tenfold growth strategy? What is the current gap with the average 1 trillion mentioned? So Moses, take note of that. The next one is from Kalisa Geoffrey. Thank you, Mr. Ronald. What is the plan that the ministry has for green spaces in order not only look at production, but also sustainable use of flora and fauna? Yes, so then the other one is thank you for the presentation. This is the Yairu Tibara. Thank you for the presentation and for highlighting these critical points. We truly value the insights shared. It is essential to emphasize that over 82% of Uganda's installed electric capacity derives from hydropower, as electricity serves as a powerful engine driving our economy and broader socio-economic progress. This dominance underscores both our strength and vulnerability. Climate change is visibly disrupting our water resources, posing direct threats to this foundation. Therefore, deepening our understanding of hydrology, climate trends, and their specific impacts, the need for protection of these water sources becomes imperative. There is indeed a pressing need to build knowledge, gather robust information, and secure dedicated financing to protect Uganda's vital water resources, on which the country heavily relies for hydropower generation and of overall economic development. Again, Ronald and Moses, if you can respond to this, then after they have responded, then I will go to those who have put up their hands up on the chat. So over to you. Maybe Ronald, you can start.
Thank you, colleagues, for those questions. One of the key areas that I want to mention here is the Uganda Green Growth Development Strategy. The strategy was developed in 2017 and highlights what Uganda needs to do to move to green, growth, which recognizes the need for low carbon emission, the need to preserve our biodiversity, but also to have economic growth. It harmonizes economic growth and environmental stability. So that plan is there, that strategy is there, and as you may note, Uganda slowly is embracing green growth in many areas. If you look at solar energy is coming on board as a critical area. Even water, harnessing of water resources is depending on solar energy. We have solar panels that have been put up in different parts of the country as a way of solar irrigation is going on. So we are using solar energy, and that's a green space that we can look at. If you look at our transport system, slowly are embracing e-mobility. Again, that is another green aspect that is coming in. So green growth strategy, slowly we are embracing this. Now, what are we doing here? We have some economic instruments in terms of incentives where possible. The taxes on electric vehicles have been lowered. Even solar energy is tax-free. So those are kind of incentives that have been put in place to ensure that we embrace and tap into the green growth opportunities. There are subsidies, targeted subsidies, that are also in place to ensure that we exploit the green spaces and the capacity building on these opportunities. Mr. Sonk has highlighted the need for green bonds. These are opportunities which are green nature that can be harnessed. I think that is what I can say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ronald. Moses, you can come in.
Yeah, thank you and members for the comments. I think the comments is the question is clear on the financing gap. I did mention that the average we have about 1 trillion in the budget, and even the chair you threw more light that we need our annual requirements around 4 trillion. Actually, it's around 5 trillion. So the gap is quite clear. I think in more than I would say 4 trillion or 3 trillion. But here, what I wanted to emphasize, I think we focus should not be more on the gap, but to ask ourselves what we need, how much we need to invest in to achieve the tenfold growth strategy. For example, if we are targeting to have universal access to safe water, safe and clean water by all Ugandans, then we will definitely have to estimate how much we would need to do that by the year 2040. If you're going to industrialize agriculture and other industries that need water, the key message here I want to put across is that for us to achieve our tenfold growth strategy, it is evident that we need to mobilize. Actually, we might even have to mobilize far more than the 5 trillion that I have mentioned. Good thing that the government is so committed to ensure that going forward, this is going to be the key reference on strategic document for government. And like I mentioned, focus is now on developing the capacity to mobilize resources from the different areas, both through the taxes, through the blended financing, mobilizing more private sector support, so that we close the gap. I think, to me, the most important thing is to achieve the target, the long-term event target. Mr. Kagwazi mentioned poverty eradication, for example. There is no way we are going to totally to achieve 100% poverty eradication without ensuring all Ugandans have access to clean and safe water. So, to me, the gap is likely to keep fluctuating depending on how much we mobilize. But also we need to be mindful that the population is also growing. I did mention that we are urbanizing at a very high rate. So the demand for services like safe water and sanitation, and we will keep on growing. So currently the financing gap is very clear, but it is likely to grow over the next 15 years. But we are optimistic that if we address the existing challenges in resource mobilization, we should be able to drastically reduce the financing challenges we are currently facing as a country. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses, for this very, very elaborate response. I have people whose hands are up before I go to the chat. Again, Moses and Ronald, you see the questions and the comments are many. That's indicates to you the interest all of us have on this topic. So can I give the opportunity to Ms. Jane Nabunya Murumba, after which we shall have Meron Ankunda. Jane, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, and thank you, Moses and Ronald, for those great inputs. Mine is a quick question. All these things and what you've mentioned and what has been written down, it's all good. But how are you planning to specifically address the bureaucratic bottlenecks slow decision making, slow responses by government, delays even in signing off things. How are you planning to do that with the new NDP4 and the Tenfold growth strategy? Are you going to do it differently because you're still the same people who are there and they're the same bottlenecks that delay decision making and responses, especially if we are to engage more with the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Very, very clear. Meron, can you come in?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalis, and thank you so much, the people that presented to us. So I want to appreciate the work that you're doing. And my question, I actually have a request that you give a reaction, though, or it can be negative or positive, but I'm a student that has just left university. I completed I completed school in 2024 and graduated in procurement and logistics from Chambogo University. So we are so much into doing things that favor our environment and have much impact on climate change as well. So following SDG 9 that encourages industry, innovation, and infrastructure, I have operated a small business for a period of 2 years. I trade cow ghee. For those of you who know, you know. So I've also come up with a plan of adding value to that cow ghee. The innovation is that we use that cow ghee to produce natural lubricants for machines and the use of lubricants. And according to my little research that I've started on, it shows me that cow ghee can be a potential bio-lubricant, though its properties need modification to match industrial lubricant standards. And again, it has properties that are biodegradable, which could be beneficial for machinery, especially in agriculture and rural settings. So that is my innovation, and I want to hear a reaction from the technical people, the likes of Kalis and the two people that have presented to us, the two gentlemen, Mr. Moses Sonko and Agwa. So I want to listen to your reaction about this innovation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Meron, for that. The team will respond. Let's now go back to the chat before we bring on board those who have put up their hands. Yes. Let me see. I need to make sure that I don't miss anybody. Yes. Kemigisa, Jennifer, I think that's where I had ended. I happy to be part of this meeting. I missed yesterday's meeting. Jennifer, there are some recordings the team will share. The meeting was on Wednesday. The next meeting is on Tuesday. So the team will share. Just put your email in the chat. You say, indeed, climate change is negatively affecting all sectors of the economy. As Ugandan, we should try as much as we can to plant more trees, protect our natural sources. That's a comment. Olivia Dale, thank you for the insightful presentation and for all the work done on environment restoration and climate mitigation. Olivia, based in Kampala, supporting organization to design and fund climate mitigation projects, forest restoration, agroforestry. If you have a project in the sector requiring funding, I would be happy to support. Yes, we are happy to hear that. So Moses, we are talking about innovative financing. Olivia is able to fund, and I think this is where we are talking about funding from the private sector. And she has indicated her email. So capture that email as secretariat, but everybody reach out to her and have discussions on how you can be supported. Yes, the other one, Paul, I think is putting his contacts there. Yes, Kotilda, thanks Mr. Sonko for sharing about the financing side of water resources development, about the potential sources of finance. You mentioned key players in financing as government and private sector. Do you see the role of the CSOs in mobilizing non-grant financing? If yes, what kind of partnerships will government envisage in this regard? Harriet Nakasi, is the new strategy for irrigation accessible now? Robert Adupa, exploiting green spaces is a brilliant idea. It should include current and future spaces on an ongoing concern to ensure programmatic policy technical capacity. A platform for regional engagement is recommended. Grace Canweri, thank you, Moses, for the great insights about the strategy. To what extent has this strategy been popularized among the water and environment sector stakeholders to enable integration into sector operation and resource mobilization? Lucky Chris Ochen, how will the government balance the need for rapid industrialization and economic growth with environmental sustainability and protection of water resources? Dina Nabawisi, thank you for the information. I think we need more action on the drivers of environmental regulation, such as energy for cooking, more tax exemptions, green cooking, innovations and initiatives can be one of them. Dennis Ojambo, thank you so much for the presentation. Kind advice on the progress of implementing the environment tax as an incentive to prevent environmental pollution, other than in the transport sector where old vehicles are subjected to environmental review. Yes, Mark wants to thank the panelists. And he said, on that note, I would like to propose a more strategic communication approach through the use of visual storytelling, thus bridging the gap of mobilization and information dissemination to different democratic audiences. I would be open to more engagement and strategy. His contacts is there. Johnson Kagugube, thank you for the presentation. Is the concept of green growth taking into consideration the need to develop water recycling systems? This is very necessary where the country experiences prolonged drought. Then the others, Peter, Vincent, are putting their contacts on the chat. Robert Adupa, again, physical green spaces and environment are rapidly being converted to current consumption even outside the policy. What safeguards are in place to ensure stepwise conscious environmental usage that transcend reckless use of green spaces? Here Tuba, the others are putting there the contacts. Yes. Koba Rogers says human resources being one of the most important resources. What initiatives have been put in place to groom the workforce that is to drive these programs in the long run? Lilia Naiga says she has good experience here with her role she plays in national water. Grace Canwera, again, it is important that we take stock of the climate risks and vulnerabilities at regional district level. Could consider conducting climate risk and vulnerability assessment, farm up climate rationale building for effective resource mobilization. Patrick Rukwago, thanks for organizing this wonderful meeting. We are very optimistic to hear more on funding, especially for school wash funding for vulnerable children in Uganda. So it has been a handful, and I want to request the Secretariat, Francis, capture these comments. They are very, very important. Follow them up even after this webinar. But I want to request Moses and Ronald. Moses, maybe you can start with the responses on those issues you are able to respond to.
Yeah, thank you so much. I also want to thank the colleagues for the interest. The number of comments and questions that are coming up shows actually how interested, the audience and the partners are interested in this whole issue we are discussing. Of course, Chair, a number of them are ideas that we, especially us in government, need to reflect on if we are to achieve our development objectives of the country. There was a question on how to, the strategy, the Tenfold growth strategy, has been popularized, I think, among different stakeholders like underwater and environment. Here, this is referred to in most of the government documents, our budget strategy. Of course, it's not detached from the NDP. As you all know, Dr. Mr. Kagwa will definitely, I know, throw more light on this. The NDP is our 5-year development plan, but also pursuing the long-term development agenda. So the Tenfold growth strategy is communicated in the call circulars, when the minister is presenting the speech, when we are presenting in Parliament, we are supposed to demonstrate that what we are doing actually is in line with that strategy. Definitely, there are challenges, like Madam Jane has mentioned. She actually asked how different, what are we going to do different to improve, to address issues of inefficiency. Chair, the strategy, like I mentioned, it has the ATMs, but also it has enablers. When you look at the investments in ICT and digitizing government services, they are part of the efforts to ensure that we improve government efficiency. You've seen a few areas where government has improved. If someone is going to, let's say, to register a business or to access the services by the revenue authority, whether it is accessing a driving permit, with a number of areas that the government is using IT, for example, to improve its efficiency. But we are not denying that the rest of government, definitely, we need to improve government efficiency. We are making efforts in improving project formulation and appraisal, in as well as in addition to execution, because we know much as we've been doing planning, execution has been a challenge across government, and the Ministry of Finance, NPA, and of course working with partners, including the non-state actors. Actually, there was a question about involvement of the non-state actors, like the CSOs. Our government is working closely with CSOs. I know, Chair, you will maybe support me on this. Underwater and environment sector, we have very active non-state actors who are very instrumental, and they are making a very good contribution. All we need is to understand how government can improve its facilitation. Colleagues will appreciate the major role of government is actually to put in place an enabling environment so that we can, for example, support the colleague who has mentioned the small business of GI. There are government entities. We have ICT and Innovation, where ideas for value addition are being supported. I want to advise that such ideas can be, there is need to get in touch with the relevant government agencies to see which kind of government support we can provide. But we need to also be mindful that by government investing in areas like improving access to electricity, we are trying to reduce the cost of doing business, bring down the cost of the internet, improving the quality of transport, or improving access. We mentioned the investments in the human capital development. There are a lot of ongoing government interventions in education, for example, including health, for purposes of ensuring that we tap into our younger population, we equip the younger population with the relevant skills. Under curriculum development, there are changes that are being made. We may not be moving at the pace that maybe is adequate, and needs to be improved, but a lot of efforts are being made across government. There was an issue of green spaces. We are emphasizing, of course, right now we are working closely with the Ministry of Lands and, of course, NPA to improve compliance with physical planning. The reason why, for example, green spaces are disappearing in urban areas is because we have not been enforcing physical planning and land use compliance. And, of course, Chair, you know, with your guidance as the ministry, the lead agency in charge of environment issues, we are also trying as much as possible to integrate issues of environmental protection in all government projects. When we present the projects for appraisal, we are supposed to demonstrate the extent to which we have complied with the sustainable utilization of available resources. So efforts are being made across government, but government cannot do it alone. We need the support of the non-state actors. We need the private sector to be on board because, for example, if you look at the destruction of the environment, government is supposed to enforce land use and also protect, but also the private sector is the key actors. So it is the responsibility for all of us to ensure that we achieve sustainable development. And that one, Chair, touches on the question on how we are going to balance rapid industrialization, economic growth, and the sustainable use of the environment and water resources. I think that question is critical. It's for us to see whether we are doing enough. When we say that we actually protecting the environment, are we really protecting it? When we are allocating land for industries, are we not allocating the land spaces in sensitive ecosystems like wetlands and so on? Government is investing in areas like industrial parks for purposes of organizing the industries and reduce encroachment on other protected areas. There was a question, Chair, about empowering the human capital. I've talked about investment in education. We cannot exhaust everything here, but Chair, I want to encourage colleagues to work closely with the different government entities. For example, Chair, our rule on water for human consumption under our current post-development plan was put under the program for human capital, where we have education and health for purpose, because we knew that access to safe water and sanitation is key in having a healthy population. So we are not only investing in education for human capital and skilling, but also we want to ensure that the interventions are collaborated so that we can have a healthy population. Chair, I think the key message I'm getting that members are giving us ideas, especially us in the government, to reflect on how best we are addressing the prevailing challenges in the light of the long-term development agenda that we've set out to do. But like I said, Chair, I call upon all of us, whether you are a non-state stakeholder, whether you are a private sector actor, developing the country sustainably requires joint effort. Government carries the primary responsibility of providing the enabling environment. Of course, also ensuring that the actions of the private sector are regulated, and there are regulatory frameworks and institutions mandated to do that. They might be having operational challenges, but they are being gradually addressed, Chair. Chair, I submit.
Thank you very much, Moses, for that comprehensive response. Again, colleagues, these are being captured. And as we said, the discussion is now informing the preparation for the Uganda Water and Environment. So be sure that the issues you have raised are going to be captured, and they will be discussed further during the Uganda Water and Environment, where we'll be having the different panels. So, Mr. Kagwa, if you can respond to some of the issues that you feel are still not responded to, you can take the floor. And there are a few in the chat as well.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for raising those pertinent questions. Moses has done very well in tackling most of them, but allow me to add for more emphasis, to add a few things to some of them. I'll begin with Jen. Jen, you're raising a very pertinent, and it touches on the efficiency of government in delivery of services. First, I want to mention that we are a sector-led economy, and this has been emphasized at different levels by government. Even NDP4 emphasizes that we are private sector-led, economy. So we have to create an enabling environment for the private sector, to flourish, including, working very well with government departments, ministries, and agencies in the delivery of different services. Now, this leads to me to one of the key additions in this planning process. Now, government ministries, departments, and agencies are supposed to develop strategic plans, elaborating what they're going to do in the next 5 years. And this plan should be in alignment with the NDP4. Now, the strategic plan also goes with what we call a service and service delivery standards. If you look at NPA, what services do we offer to the government, to the people of Uganda? So each ministry, department, and agency of government should, or is required or mandated, to elaborate the services it offers to the people. And then after elaborating them, you need to give the service delivery standards. What services do I expect? By service delivery standard, we are looking at what quality of service do you want? Each ministry has to elaborate the quality of service, the performance indicator, the timeliness of the service, how can one access it, and where can one, get it if wanted. So service delivery standards, service and service delivery standards are expected, and they're part of the key deliverables that each ministry and department of government is supposed to offer. You've heard of the client charter is also part of them. So, in addition to the strategic plan, you need the service and service delivery standards, as well as the client charter. Further still, Jen and the colleagues, as CSOs, you need to hold government accountable in delivering services, ensuring that these roles are performed and that our people have access to these services. Now, of course, e-government is also part of it, and NDP4 tries to show how e-government, what each of the programs will do in terms of improving the efficiency, what technologies are they to use, and slowly many institutions of government are digitizing their service delivery systems. Some of you may have seen that now you don't need to go to the passport office, just remain where you are, fill in the form, and move on. So these kind of innovations are going on in many government institutions. Meron, I want to thank you for your innovation. That's a good one. I'm happy that you are in procurement. What I want to employ to do is sustainable procurement. We need sustainable procurement to be part of it. And Meron, value addition is part of NDP4. You need to see how to add value to your GI. It could be packaging it could be making a better quality. and even, marketing it better. Now, balance between economic growth and industrialization, that is the challenge of sustainable development, which the whole world is grappling with. And the green growth strategy that I mentioned is actually a blueprint that should guide every actor on how to move on that front. Lastly, Chair and colleagues, Moses has mentioned the green space, and true green spaces are disappearing. It's very unfortunate. The issue is physical planning. We have not done very well in physical planning and enforcement of compliance on physical planning. A new development is that the National Planning Authority is taking over some functions of physical planning, such that we link economic planning to physical planning. Now we hope to make a change in this, and we're already engaging different physical planners at the local government level to ensure that we're in unison in undertaking very many issues of physical planning. Chair, that is what I wanted to say, but allow me also to add on that the Tenfold growth strategy is one of the ways or a complementary tool to NDP4. It is not different from NDP4, but outlines what we need to do to achieve the Vision 2040 in the remaining 15 years. It is not only limited to NDP4, it also goes to other NDPs that are remaining. And Chair, as I conclude, I want to emphasize that NDP4 looks at inclusive growth. And if you want inclusive growth, it is investment in environment and natural resource that can give us inclusive growth and wealth creation at all levels. Thank you, Chair and colleagues.
Yes, Ronald, thank you very much again for that great response. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I once suggested that you post your question, comment in the chat. We are running out of time. We're already behind schedule. So just put your comment in the chat. We are going to capture all these comments, questions, suggestions, and as I told you, they are going to be integrated in the preparatory process for the Uganda Water and Environment Week. So, Kotilda, okay, fine. So, Rogers, 1 minute, and then Kotilda, 1 minute. I see your hand is up. Let me be fair to you. So, Rogers, very fast in 1 minute. Rogers, are you there?
Thank you, sir. Doctor.
Yes, very fast.
I'm called Mugoda Rogers. I'm a member of Environment and Natural Resources Network, a regional chairman for Eastern Uganda. My point is, Mr. Kago has talked about the service delivery standards. It is something which I wanted to add on that at district level, there is need for the ministry to come up with a plan as to how people at district and lower government levels can fill the services of the ministry. There is a big gap which needs to be filled by the ministry at the district and the other lower government levels. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rogers, for that. Kotilda, can you come in?
Thank you, Chair. Kotilda Nacheyune. I work for Care International in Uganda. I'd posted a comment in a question in the chat, and it was going to Mr. Sonko, and he tried to respond to it. I wanted to be a little specific and say, you mentioned financing opportunities like green bonds, result-based financing, some blended financing. And the key actors you mentioned there, rightly so, is private sector and government. So I wanted to know if you see a role, any role for civil society organizations, which are largely known for grant financing, but do you see a role in this kind of non-grant financing for civil society organizations? And if yes, what kind of partnerships would those be then for civil society organizations supporting or working closely with government to fundraise from these kinds of financing instruments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kotilda. So Moses, maybe you can respond to this and then we move on. But again, colleagues, feel free, post in the chat, even afterwards, share with us. All of these issues are the ones which are going to form the basis for the discussion, the panel discussion during the Uganda Water and Environment Week. So Moses, over to you. Moses, you are muted. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I got a call and someone. But when I came back, I had the question about access to climate financing by the civil society organization. Chair, I don't have the specifics, but what I know,
Moses, just to highlight to you how I think Kotilda wanted to know whether you see a role of the CSOs that are largely focusing on grant financing. What kind of partnerships do you envisage to have with the CSOs?
Chair, I think there is a very clear framework through which government partners with the civil society. Of course, as we all know, most of the government financing is undertaken through the established institutional framework, let's say through Ministry of Water and Environment. So ideally, we would expect the non-state actors like the COs to access financing through the same arrangement. I may not be very sure whether the opportunity for grant financing, we can do more research, but I know under our climate finance strategy, there are different options to accessing to the grant because there are opportunities for financing are there, and the strategy is not only financing government, but it also looks at the role of the private sector, the role of the CSOs. So I believe through that strategy, there are opportunities. Perhaps, Chair, what I would advise that we reach out to the Ministry of Water. If there is a proposal by the civil society through the Ministry of Water, because in terms of climate change, the Ministry of Water is the lead technical government agency. Of course, then to Ministry of Finance to see how the proposal can be financed or forwarded to the different financing agencies. But I know the opportunities are there. The only challenge we've been facing that as a country, I think we do not have a clear strategy, but also in terms of capacity to formulate and submit bankable proposals, we still have capacity gaps that we need to support, including the non-state actors. We need to support them to see how they can enhance their capacity to generate ideas that can access climate financing. I don't have the details, but I know the opportunity. The window is there. Chair, I think we can discuss further as we discussed during the Water Week. The matter can again be brought on back and we guide further. But I know there are opportunities, not only for government, but also for non-state actors, including the CSOs and the private sector, because they are well located for in the strategy.
Thank you very much, Moses, for that. Just to emphasize a few things. The Ministry of Water and Environment has developed a financing strategy for the National Water Policy. We have revised our National Water Policy. Our National Water Policy came into force in 1999, so we have revised it. But we were requested by Cabinet to develop a financing strategy. And that financing strategy elaborates a number of sources, and one of them is actually funding from the civil society. So we are talking about government financing, climate financing, private sector, civil society. So we are talking about grant financing and non-grant financing. So again, Kotilda, in there we're highlighting the partnership arrangement. And I think as Moses has indicated, we have a very active non-stakeholder engagement really in the water and environment sector through Uganda Water and Water and Sanitation NGO Network, WASNet, and also through Environment Alert. So again, we have that framework, but the financing strategy is available, we can share, and it is highlighting how we are going to get the funds. But we are moving it further to develop a water investment program. We'll be embarking on it early March, where Moses, we want to take stock of the funds that come into the country to fund water. Right now, we are estimating 1 billion, but that is coming from government alone. So we want, under the preparation of the water investment program, we want to identify all of those possible sources, including self-supply. We want to take account if, for example, right now we say we need 5 trillion, how much actually is coming in from other actors. We don't have a feel of that. Civil society, we have a fee, but we want to get all of that. So the water investment program is going to involve everybody. We'll have a high stakeholder engagement process, and I'm sure we'll be able to identify all those possible sources of financing and leverage on them. In terms of, I think there have been a number of questions regarding protection of water resources and the catchments. I just want to inform you that this week, on Monday this week, we're presenting a national water policy to Cabinet. And the issue of protecting water catchments and the environment was at the heart of the discussion. Cabinet, overwhelmingly chaired by the President, directed that we have to protect these catchments. And we are saying those who are utilizing the water need actually to pay for protecting the catchment. So under the financing strategy, you have that, and also want that money to help improve livelihoods and create jobs. And that's why we are going to get some financing for innovative projects for the young people. But we are also in the policy, we are highlighting how we are going to protect the wetlands from degradation by creating businesses around wetlands, but we will also be delivering water from the wetlands to upland areas, forest areas, so that people don't have to go to dig in wetlands. So that's something that the government has given attention to, and we expect that it's going to be dominating our programs. Moses already mentioned that all our projects include a component of protecting the catchment. If you see, for example, projects you are preparing for irrigation, for hydropower, all of these have a component. And now it is a licensing requirement. If you go to Electricity Regulatory Authority, if you don't have a water source protection plan, you cannot license your hydropower plant. If you go to NEMA, you not get an EIA certificate. So again, we're integrating that, and we do believe that it will be beneficial to everybody. Somebody asked about irrigation strategy. Yes, we had the discussion on it 2 weeks ago. This irrigation strategy is jointly being developed by Ministry of Water and Environment and Ministry of Agriculture. We did receive good comments, and we are working on it. We are hoping that by the end of this month, it will be ready, and we'll be able to share with you various stakeholders in that regard. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, the questions are many, but our secretariat has captured them. We'll make an effort to respond to these before our time, but also we are going, as I have told you, we are going to make sure that we give attention to them during the Water and Environment Week. I think the key message that Moses left with us is developing the country requires everybody. If we are going back with something, I think get that message that developing the country requires everybody. And Ronald emphasized the issue of the green growth strategy, that we need to make sure that development is actually being done in an environmentally sustainable manner so that we can have projects that actually last time. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to thank our speakers, Moses Sonko from Ministry of Finance, Principal Economist, Ronald Kagwa, Manager, National Planning Authority. We couldn't have had better presenters. So I want to encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, let's gear up for the Uganda Water and Environment Week. This was a curtain raiser. I'm sure the Uganda Water and Environment Week is going to be very, very exciting. Those who have not registered, register. We have a provision for physical attendance and online attendance. Thank you very much. I want to inform you that we are having the next webinar on Tuesday. To look out for it. It will be focusing on the third sub-theme. And I'm sure you'll equally get very, very interesting information. So 17th February, We'll be looking at sub-theme 2, 19th February, sub-theme 3, and then the last one will be on 24th February, where we'll be looking at the last sub-theme. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best, and thank you, Moses and Ronald, for responding to our request at the short notice. Wish you a nice day. We see you on Tuesday. Nice day.